go. So today's session, guys, we'll start with the revision as always. So on the revision, we don't have a lot, we only have about CSS transition and CSS animation. Then after that we have the quiz. After the quiz, we take our 15. After the 15, we are going straight to the concepts of responsive web design. And number 6, we hit the box sizing property. Are you ready? Right. Sister, can you read the first sentence for me?
The transition CSS property is a short-time property for transition property, transition duration, transition time function, transition delay, and transition behavior.
Can you explain what is being told in that sentence?
So the transition property...
Volume. Increase the volume, because remember, increase the volume. Remember, there's on your final assignment, right? You are going to be presenting to a wide audience, so that's why I keep on saying volume up. Sorry?
Can I ask you to speak also louder? Because I want to ask to hear you talk.
Yeah. That is fair.
So transition property, transition duration, that's all properties that you can use to display how you want any animation or something to be displayed. So with the duration, it will say how long you want the whatever you inputted to be animated, and then there's any delay. So,
Okay, thank you. Sister?
Transitions enable you to define the transition between two states of an element. Different states may be defined using the pseudo classes like hover or active, or dynamically set using JavaScript.
Okay, and can you explain?
So, they're saying that like if you have a box or something, then you put the hover option in, then if you hover over that box, whatever you put inside, when you see it will like maybe change different color or move back and forth, whatever you put into your property and values, so like the hover active, you go over that thing, it will change like to here, something like that.
Okay, thank you. Cindy?
The transition behavior CSS.
Volume?
The transition behavior CSS property specifies whether transitions will be started for properties whose animation behavior is discrete.
Can you tell us what does it mean, or explain to us?
It shows the behavior of the animation. Like, let's say if you have the hover pseudo class, if you will hover on that selected element to show that behavior, if maybe it has to change color.
Okay, let me just read all the three. The transition CSS property is a shorthand property for transition property, transition duration, transition timing function, transition delay, and transition behavior. So the transition CSS property is a shorthand property. Remember what is a shorthand property? It means it has constituent properties that it goes with. Those properties are such as follows: a transition property, the transition duration, the transition timing function, transition delay, and transition behavior. Transition enable you to define transition between two states of an element. Different state may be defined using pseudo classes like hover or active, or dynamically set using JavaScript. So this part is telling us that transition is a way to animate elements based on different states, such as hover or active, or you can set it using JavaScript. Unfortunately for us, we have not reached that part, which is JavaScript. This week we'll be finishing CSS, then next week we'll start with CSS. So sorry, with JavaScript. Okay, we're making the mistake again. So the transition behavior CSS property specifies whether the transition will be started for properties whose animation behavior is discrete. Again, the transition behavior CSS property specifies whether transitions will be started for properties whose animation behavior is discrete. So again, it's telling us what I was saying earlier, that transitions are animations, but they have to be triggered, like using different states, like on hover, like on active. They are animation, but they have to be triggered, right? Sister, can you read the transition delay? Yeah.
The transition delay CSS property specifies the duration to wait before starting the property's transition effect when its value changes.
Okay, can you explain what does it mean?
So basically means that when you use the transition delay, you can set how much seconds you want it to start after. So if you input 2 seconds, it will only start animating after 2 seconds.
Okay. So Tanvir, can you do the duration?
The transition duration CSS property sets the length of time a transition animation should take to complete. By default, the value is 0, is meaning that no animation will occur.
Okay.
So what I understand is that you can set how long or short the time needs to be for the animation to work. So if you make it 0, it means that you have no animation. But if you make it other number, then it will 2 is it will be like either slow or fast, but like it will show you how if you change different values, then you can see the difference of how the thing will move.
Okay, Cindy, the proper transition property.
Transition properties CSS sets the CSS properties to which the transition effect should be applied.
What does it mean?
So what it means to me is that using the example that I have on LinkedIn is that the transition that's applied there, the transition property is to hover over the focus button, and then when you do that, it changes the color to show that the transition of you hovering over that focus button.
Okay. So the transition delay CSS property specifies the duration to wait before starting property's transition effect when its value changes. So what does it say is the transition delay CSS property specifies the duration to wait, the time to wait before the actual animation start on applying, which is when you hover on something. Let's say you have a transition CSS delay of 2 seconds. It will only start after 2 seconds, then it will animate after 2 seconds. Yeah, it just means that. The transition duration CSS property says the length of time a transition animation should take to complete. By default, the value is 0 seconds, meaning that no animation will occur, right? So the transition duration property, it sets on like how long shall it take until the animation will finish, right? Let's say if you were doing a bounce, your box was bouncing. If you wanted it to bounce for 4 seconds, you could set that I want this to last for 4 seconds, that is the duration between the start and the end of the transition, which is of the animation, right? The transition property, CSS property, says the CSS property to which a transition effect should be applied. The transition property, CSS property, sets the CSS properties to which a transition effect should be applied. This one is asking what you want to animate. Is it the background? Is it the margin? Or whatever property that you want to apply, you want to be animate, you want to animate. Are you on Ambient? Can you just go on examples? If there is try it, use the try it and just see. or try to go to the transition property directly, because there is a way I found it, so that you can see it directly from the source. So the transition timing function CSS property sets how intermediate values are calculated for CSS properties being affected by a transition effect. The transition timing function CSS property sets how intermediate values are calculated for CSS properties being affected by a transition effect. So this timing function, it sets how intermediate values are calculated for CSS properties being affected by a transition effect. Well, let's say, for an example, on transition property, that's where we chose what properties are we animating, right? So it goes to the second one. So this, it says how like your background is calculated if you are using the background to be animated, right? Let's go on the second one. Okay. Apologies. My machine is working very slow today. While I'm working on my machine. So guys, what do you understand about the transition properties? Like, what do you understand in general? Let's just generalize everything.
That's basically properties that will allow you to successfully animate like whatever elements and properties that you need to converge, because without this,
Okay, based on states, right? Okay, Cindy, your understanding on your overall understanding on this property you just read.
How do I say it? It's I'm not sure how to put it. What I'm saying is sort of like as functionality.
Sorry?
I'm not sure if but I think if I say it shows the functionality of that selected item. Like if you're hovering over something, then it shows that you are hovering over it. Oh yeah, like even making your thing bounce. It shows the wing of your element instead of your elements just sitting there. If you like want to flip your words or something like that, that's that.
Okay. I can read your overall understanding.
my understanding is that there are certain objects that you want to move and things. You can use the transition and properties and things. You have to, you only have to go through, you have to put the other option to other over it as well to work and things. Compared to animation as it works, you just going to do that automatically just move around the page and stuff.
Okay. I'll just add on what you're saying. You are correct, right? All of you guys are correct. So in CSS we have two types of animation: triggered animation and untriggered animation. What do I mean by that? We have animations that need to be triggered. Let's say if you click or you are hovering on top of something. So those are triggered animation. Those triggered animation are animated using the transition property, right? So you cannot animate using transition animation without using the pseudo classes, which is the active, your hover, or your active, your focus. You have to use, if you're using the transition CSS property, you have to use states too, so that it can be triggered. Remember when we spoke about pseudo classes, that pseudo classes such as hover or active, we're speaking about links. We said we had a visited state, an unvisited state, and also hover and active, right? So that shows that elements have different states. Like when you hover on top of it, that is another state, which is hover. When you click on it, that is active, it's being clicked on. So that's where we can have transition. We can use transition. Then we have animations that don't need to be triggered in order for them to work. Like, we'll speak about them. Let me just pause and try to work on my system. Yeah. So Tanvir, can you read the first line for me?
The animation shorthand sees its property applies an animation between styles. It is a shorthand for animation name, animation duration, animation timing function, animation delay, animation
Duration count.
yeah, animation duration, animation full mode, animation play state, and animation timeline.
So, what do you understand about that? Or can you explain to us your understanding based on
My
what you
understanding
read?
about that is that when you use the animation properties and stuff, it's so you can like make objects or boxes or words pop like move around on your website in the minute you go into it. You can slide in or out and you can make it bounce on the website and stuff like
Okay. The animation shorthand CSS property applies an animation between styles. It is a shorthand for animation name, animation duration, animation timing function, animation delay, animation iteration count, animation direction, animation fill mode, and animation play state, and animation timeline. So basically what is being said, that the animation, it is a shorthand property for this following constituent property, which is animation name, the name of the animation, which is defined using the keyframes. Oh, sorry. Why does it keep on disconnecting? Sorry, let me just pause. As I was saying, the animation shorthand CSS property applies an animation between styles. It is a shorthand for animation name, animation duration, animation timing function, animation delay, animation iteration count, animation direction, animation fill mode, animation play state, and animation timeline. The animation name CSS property specifies the names of one or more keyframes and rules that describe the animation to apply an element. Multiple keyframe at rule are specified as a comma-separated list of names. If the specified name does not match any keyframe at rule, no properties are animated. Can one of you guys explain what is meant by that?
So if you set the animation name, you have to use the exact same name if you input keyframes, because if the two names doesn't match, then nothing will be animated.
So when you're using the animation name property, it means you already predefined the keyframe which has the same name. It will look for the same name that is applied on name, and it also will look at the keyframes that it has. Does it have this name? If not, no properties is going to be animated. The examples on MTN that you see there, which is bounce, those are examples. They have their own predefined keyframes. If you were to write the same examples on your PC and write bounce, there's nothing that would happen, because unless you have a predefined keyframe that has the same name as bounce, right? Which is, if not, then there's no animation that is going to be applied, which means you have to manually create your own animations using keyframes. Remember, on keyframes we have about 0 up to 100, right? That range from 0 to 100 you can change from different state, which is you can change from 0 up to 25 if you want to do that. You have the control, which means this animation, a custom animation, is not a pre-built functionality of animations that we normally see when we work with PowerPoints or your Word, all of that, you have to predefine everything by yourself, then use them. Right? Do you understand? Okay. Cindy, can you read the next line?
The animation duration CSS property says the length of time that an animation takes to complete one cycle.
You understand it?
My understanding is that you can set the time of your animation. For instance, if you're going to change the background color of an element, you can set it to 1 second before it can change to another color. But it's only going to happen once. There's complete like a one cycle.
So the animation duration, again, note the property name, animation duration, which means it is the animation duration CSS property says the length of a time that an animation takes to complete one cycle. Remember the duration, the time it starts up until the time it finishes, right? So how long will it last? If it's going to be animating for 4 seconds or 5 seconds, it's going to do, like, are you on MDN? Let me just show you something. You scroll up on the example, go on the duration. It's going to give you a 5 examples based on the time you see here. Duration is 15 seconds. Just play on that. Okay, milliseconds, you see that it's very fast when you're using milliseconds, use the seconds. Because it's using seconds. 1, 2, 3. Number. The duration, you want it to scroll up. On this side, choose the So it's all about the duration, the time it will take from start. Yeah. Can you see the difference? Do you understand? So, wait, can you tell me? Do you read? Okay, can you read it? This animation timing function.
The animation timing function CSS property sets how an animation progresses through the duration of each cycle.
So that what you understand?
So,
Understanding only?
if you use the timing function,
Yeah.
then you can
It's
set it to the
It's a problem. Look for the timing function. And then good examples.
that's linear. So linear would be now the default color to
Luna. Okay.
And then is in collect. I think
To
it's
start
go
slow.
slow and then go fast. And then is out is like the opposite. Then is in and out will start slow and then go fast.
Okay. So the animation timing function CSS property sets how an animation progresses through the duration of each cycle. And we remember on the duration we gave it 4 seconds, the time it will take to finish, right? But in between that, there's a timing function. How should it start and how should it end? Should it start fast or should it end slow? So that is all about the function, the timing function CSS property. The timing function is pre-defined for us. There's a lot of values that we can use, such as linear, is in or is in out, or is out. Right? Not is out as in else out. E. Yeah. So terminal, can you do the delay?
The animation delay CSS property specifies the amount of time to wait from a client the animation to an admin before beginning to perform the animation. The animation can start later immediately from its beginning or immediately and partway through the animation.
You understand it, Monish?
So the animation delay is like we you make it 250 emails at the low cost, like, yeah, at the low, I'm never going to like a slow place, and you make it too is it was like even more slower, or like a bridge photo.
So not the property. The property is animation delay.
It's like to move the object on the screen, you can just use whatever time or sequence you want it to go in our course, you want it to go.
Okay, let me just repeat for you.
Same like the
Animation.
Hmm.
Yeah. No, I didn't delay the animation delay now.
So can I let's just forget about this animation. What does it mean when I say you are delaying the progress?
Make it listen to
Yeah, which means you are procrastinating. You don't want to start, but you will start eventually. So the delay is all about that. So how much will you delay? If you want to delay for 3 seconds, it will only start after 3 seconds. But if you will be delayed for, let's say, for 750 milliseconds, which is ms, it will only start after those specified seconds. So that is the delay. So the animation delay CSS property specifies the amount of time to wait from applying the animation to an element before beginning to perform the animation. And the animation can start later, immediately from its beginning, or immediately and partway through the animation. Right. Cindy, can you do the iteration count?
Okay. The animation iteration count CSS property sets the number of times an animation sequence should be played before stopping.
What does it mean?
Okay, so in my understanding, it sets the time of how long your irritation is going to be, like for the iteration. So, like for example, if your animation name is to rotate that object, you can set the time on
How many times?
how many times you want it to rotate until it stops.
Okay. Do we all have the same understanding? Okay. The animation iteration count CSS property says the number of times an animation sequence should be played before stopping. And Cindy gave us an example of rotating. How many times must it rotate before it stops? Let's say you want it to bounce, let's say for a bounce, you want it to bounce 3 times or 4 times before it stops, right? So it is just basically that. So the animation direction CSS property sets whether an animation should play forward, backward, alternate, and forth between playing the sequence forward and backward. So who can tell me just, okay, you can hear one of you guys will explain that one. Let's start from Cindy. The animation direction CSS property. First of all, can you just explain it? What do you understand? Go on MDN, just play with the example, then you can just tell me. Just play around different values.
Okay. So it sets I'd say the movement, but the direction of how you want your animation to go.
What is the direction?
You have forward, backward, reverse, alternate. So it's yeah.
This one? It is a direction, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
but like only not like a bounce in my understanding of what it is.
Bouncing is that direction. It is bouncing. But direction, let's go north. What is the direction, right? Let's go south. Or let's go north and south. Or east, right? I said in coding, sometimes they'll give you words that you think you don't know what you don't know. Just take the basic word that you know and access the word. You don't know what is direction. If you just keep that in mind, you understand the animation direction. Because it's all about direction. Right? So guys, we have 30 minutes in the recording. So can we take 15 and we'll come back at 11 because it's 10:46 right now. We'll come back at 11, 2 minutes past 11. Let's continue. This machine of mine, it keeps on doing the same thing. Let's pause and fix the machine. As soon as I press record, it's doing the same thing. Okay. So now we have the transition timing function example. Let's just go on MDN. Can you play with those on MDN? I think we already did. Okay. Perfect. Then we have the duration and the delay. Can you see that? Okay. Just came look from it. So now we have the quiz, right? So who can tell me about the box sizing property? Oh, before that, can we do the daily stand-up quickly because I almost forgot. The daily stand-up, you can start Cindy at the back. The daily stand-up. Volume.
I did a bit of research on media queries and box sizing.
Your findings.
And my findings, I'm still grasping it, but with the media queries, I found that you could use the add media word set and yeah, it's not a lot of research that I've done, but I've tried to first just bring the examples to understand it. So, so the other import of fonts which were not familiar to me, so
We are doing the daily stand-up.
I'm stuck, but I'm gonna try to help myself.
What are you stuck on?
And use the resources. I'm just stuck with the certain pieces that everything that we've done, so I'm just going back up with the positions, just going back and understanding everything. And any plans that are coming is just going over what we've gone through and understanding it on my own and practicing all of the days.
Okay.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Okay, research. Let me just do video queries because I was still a bit stuck on it. Again, I figured out what I was doing wrong when I didn't work. I was stuck with that. I think the declaration blocks I put in the wrong brackets, so that is the problem. Any plans to overcome current problems? Making sure I look quickly, use my eyes. Word of the day, practice.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
So, I researched about media queries and responsive web design. I don't fully understand, still trying to understand what's about. Am I stuck a little yes and understand how to do the media feeds and the responsible design. Any plans that come to go over and do more research? Whatever there is to code.
Alright. So morning everyone, with the research, because there was no load sharing and you get time to research. There was load sharing, sorry. I said there was no load sharing. Am I stuck? Not really. Any place to overcome current problems? I don't have any problems at the moment. Word of the day, keep coding and keep researching. Code, research, implement. Okay, let's go back. Oh, sorry. I almost forgot. Hey, go back. So can you tell me guys, each and one of you guys explain the box sizing property you're understanding? Web fonts, media queries, RWD, which is responsive web design. So your understanding on box sizing property, what does it do and what is it used for? Anyone? I want to
The box sizing property is to see the other total worth and height of an element is calculated so that you can say how thick you want the border of the box or even how big you want the height and the width of the box that you put in.
Okay. Sister?
I really understand it. So I played the video, and from that video, what I basically understood is the box sizing property is like a parent, and then whatever value you put in, that they like in the sizing of whatever value you entered.
Okay. Cindy, on box sizing?
Box sizing gives you the total width and height of the element we calculated. So not playing with a triad example, I see that the child container you can set on how thick you want your box to be, and you can contain it within the parent, or you can overflow just a bit outside the container. So I think that's based on the calculation using the parent container to calculate your child.
I can't hear you. And remember, we're recording. Every time you guys speak low, remember we're recording your voices to be heard also in the recording. Let's do web fonts, your understanding on web fonts, and what is web fonts, what are they mainly used for, and where do we get web fonts? That's not an answer, just give me the whole thing.
So reference, I think it's
The recording.
the external ones, and instead of using the basic ones like Helvetica, and that you can go on to Google, whatever browser you're using, and then search the font that you're using, and then you copy the code that's given, and then enter.
Okay.
I'm still figuring that because I still don't get it to work.
Okay. System on web fonts.
The way ones we can use certain codings that have changed the fonts of the website to be different and the starting of
You guys look tired. Are you ready? Are you tired already? Did you sleep yesterday? I can see. Cindy, web fonts?
Web fonts is like web fonts that you get on the web that are external from your coding system fonts, and you can import them by using that at import website. I think I saw that somewhere, whereby you can import that external web font
Okay, fair. On media queries, your basic understanding, just basic understanding. What are media queries? What are they used for? And why do we need media queries? Cindy, at the back. Let's start from you this time around. Basic understanding. You don't have to go in depth.
Media queries, what I understood was I did that other data element that we have on HTML. So I think it sort of like controls your view based on your screen. Like you would want your website to view the same way, whether it's you put the images on your phone or on your tablet.
Okay. Interesting. Sister? Your basic understanding of what is media queries and what they do.
Media queries is what's happening and getting a responsive website. So it's like a component of that.
A big one.
Whatever information you put there will like help with making a website responsive.
Okay.
Whatever property and whatever values you input there, it would it has to, the other information has to correspond. So, for example, if you input something here like with the box size in the show that if you enter a margin or padding, it gets bigger. So if that happens and it doesn't match the pixels that you inputted within the worthing where we added, that values won't show. Understand?
Yeah, I do.
I
Sister?
don't understand.
Okay, no lies. I like it. I like the answer. It's simple and straightforward. So let me just do media queries and responsive web design. Let me just give you a tip of an iceberg for now until you get there. Remember what I spoke about screen sizes? I said you have different screen sizes, right? If you were to access MDN using your device, you will see that it's not the same as the one that you view on big screen, right? The reason is, if you take a look at the way this screen is laid out, this is like a landscape or portrait. So your device is landscape or portrait before portrait. So that means on this big screen we have like a huge space that you can lay elements in, which is you can lay elements from here up until your side. Picture this as being an 8 grid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. On your phone, you won't have as much as this space, so you need a way of knowing what devices are viewing the website. If it's a mobile phone, these elements need to be laid out in a certain way. If it's a big scale like this, the elements need to be laid out in a certain way. So that's what media queries. Hence, we are saying responsive web design. It has to be responsive across all devices. Remember, you can view websites now even on a smartwatch. Right? A smartwatch is a small screen, but the website has to adapt to all screen sizes. Right? Through this technology, we can achieve what? Responsive web design. Through media queries, we can achieve what? Responsive web design. Do we all have a basic understanding? See? Okay. So the CSS media query gives you a way to apply CSS only when the browser and device environment matches a rule that you specify. For example, a viewport is wider than 480 pixels. Media queries are a key part of a responsive web design, as they allow you to create different layouts depending on the size of the viewport but they can also be used to detect other things about the environment your site is running on. For example, whether the user is using a touch screen rather than a mouse. In this lesson, you'll first learn about the syntax used in media queries and then move on to use them in a working example showing how a simple design might be responsive. Can you guys quickly, are you on MDN? Search media or using media queries. Are you there? On MDN? Are you all there? On using media queries? There's a basic detail of it. So the media query consists of a media type which tells the browser what kind of media this code is, which is it a print or is it a screen? Right. A print is like a printer. When you want to print the document you have created on the printer, a screen, which is the computer or your phone or whatever that has a screen that you can view on, right? It consists of a media expression, which is a rule or a test that must be passed for the contained CSS to be applied. It consists of a set of CSS rules that will be applied if the test passes and the media type is correct. Let me just read everything. The CSS media query gives you a way to apply CSS only when the browser and device environment matches a rule that is specified. For example, viewport, that is the rule that it does reverse. Viewport is wider than 480 pixels. Media queries are a key part of responsive web design as they allow you to create different layouts depending on the size of the viewport, but they can also be used to detect other things about the environment your site is running on. For example, whether the user is using touchscreen rather than a mouse. In this lesson, you will first learn about the syntax used in media queries and then move on to use them in a working example showing how a simple design might be made responsive. So, can you see the example? Okay, let me just wait for you to finish writing. And after you finish writing, please scroll down on MDN. There's a basic example about media queries. So it consists of a media type which tells the browser what kind of a media this code is for. Example, a print media or a screen. It consists of a media expression which is a rule or a test that must be passed for the contained CSS to be applied. It consists of a set of CSS rules that will be applied if the test passes and the media type is correct. And let me when you are done writing so that I can try to skip and read some. Next slide. I'll wait for you because it's better when you write because you are memorizing it as well. So, no worries, guys. We just go through it. Are you done? Okay. Again, my screen, oh yeah. So after specifying the type, you can then target a media feature with a rule. After specifying the type, you can then target a media feature with a role. The feature we tend to detect most often in order to create a responsive design and that it has widespread browser support is viewport width. And we can apply CSS if the viewport is above or below a certain width or an exact width using min width, max width. We already learned about those properties, remember? And with media features. The feature we tend to detect most often in order to create a responsive design that has a widespread The feature that we tend to detect most often in order to create responsive design and that has widespread browser support is viewport width. And we can apply CSS if the viewport is above or below a certain width or an exact width using min width, max width, and with media features. The width and height media features can be used as ranges and therefore be prefixed with min or max to indicate that the given value is a minimum or maximum. For example, to make the color blue if the viewport is 600 pixels or narrower, use max width. The width and height media features can be used as ranges and therefore be prefixed with min or max to indicate that the given value is a minimum or a maximum. For an example, to make the color blue if the viewport is 600 pixels or narrower, use max width. So can you guys just try to tell me what you understand about what I'm saying right now? I can read it again because that third one is the most important one. Let me just read it for the last time so that you guys can try to, guess what I'm trying to say to you. The width and the height media features can be used as ranges and therefore be prefixed with min or max to indicate that the given value is a minimum or a maximum. For example, to make the color blue if the viewport is 600 pixels or narrower, use max width. Cindy, what do you make out of that? I'm not hearing anything. Speak, hello.
I don't know.
That's what I wanted to hear.
But then, if I'm thinking minimum worth and maximum worth,
Yeah.
I'm thinking that if you set that worth based on the viewport environment, then it won't go smaller than that. So I'm just trying to use what I know to try to understand.
Yeah, you're there. So let's remember, okay, let's go back a bit. Can you control shift on your browser right now? In the meantime, I'll ask you some questions. Do you remember when we covered the min width and max width properties? Can you just remind everyone? Did you?
When I asked you, do you understand what I'm saying? I started to explain that if you set the mindset
Yes.
within the media,
Yeah.
what you call it, it's not going to change. Like that example, you make the color blue in there. It's not going to change unless that page that you read on is 600 pixels. If it's not there, it will default to the color of the body that you see.
Yeah.
So whatever you put in the media basically won't show unless the page you're viewing on matches the characteristics that's within the media.
So one well-supported media feature is orientation, which allows us to test for portrait or landscape mode to change the body or text color. If the device is in landscape, orientation, use the following media query. On MDN, the reason why I keep on telling this is because on MDN, I will keep the same code on MDN so that you can see. Yeah. Look forward. Okay. You scroll up. Orientation. So can you see combining multiple types of features? On the example on the name that I showed you, it's combining multiple different forms. Combining, yeah. So you can combine multiple types of features like that. Or can you press Ctrl Shift again? But you can use like I'm show you some. Which is all you can press right here and go to inspect. Let's press this out. You see that most of the time you press the key button. Scroll. Now it's giving you the look and feel of the device. So can you press play and see what it does? No, because like it. It's inspect. Really nice. We control the device and press this. And the second. So these are all browser tools. Yes. Can you just go and use it? It says 3 items. On the device or when you extend it to the computer, guys can quickly just go in. There's another bar. You see this navigation bar? When you press it, you know what you see. Press the navigation bar. Minimize the computer and close bar. Or you can press it. But when you go back on the desktop view, it's not there. Why? Because there's enough space on the desktop because it's on landscape. It's usually on top of the desktop. It's listed here because there's enough space for everything. Right? So this is the mutating your phone. You can make something. I was showing you just that. So to combine media features, you can use and in much the same way as we have used on the example that I was showing you guys. To combine a media type and feature. For an example, we might want to test for a mean width and orientation. The body text will be blue if the viewport is at least 600 pixels wide and the device is in landscape mode. Are we all on the same page? It's 12 now. We usually take lunch at 12. But now we will take it at 12:30 so that we can come back at 1:30. Right. So you don't have a test today? You don't have anything to do at 12. Okay, so at 12 we're taking lunch so that we can come back at 1:30. Right. Let's just quickly do this. My eyes keep on freezing. So guys, my tip. Guys, now we're back. So, if you have a set of queries, any of which could match, then you can comma separate these queries. In the below example, the text will be blue if the viewport is at least 600 pixels wide or the device is in landscape orientation. If either of these things are true, the query matches. Guys, are you on MDN? Can you see the example that I'm talking about? Huh? Sorry? Okay. If you have a set of queries, any of which could match, then you can comma separate these queries. In the example below, the text will be blue if the viewport is at least 600 pixels wide or the device is in landscape orientation. If either of these things are true, the query matches. You can negate an entire media query by using the NOT operator. This reverses the meaning of the entire media query. Therefore, in this next example, the text will only be blue if the orientation is portrait. Can you see the negate, which is using the NOT operator? Okay. There are now far too many devices with huge variety of sizes. To make that feasible, this means that instead of targeting specific sizes for all designs, a better approach is to change the design at the sizes where the content starts to break in some way. Perhaps the line lengths become far too long, or a boxed outside bars gets squashed and hard to read. That's the point at which you want to use the media query to change the design to a better one for the space you have available. This approach means that it doesn't matter what exact dimensions are of the device being used, every range is catered for. The point at which media query is known as breakpoint. Oh, sorry, I can't see that. Oh. So the point of which media queries is introduced are known as breakpoints. Can I read it the whole thing? There are now far too many devices with huge variety of sizes. To make that feasible, this means that instead of targeting specific sizes for all designs, a better approach is to change the design at the size where the content starts to break in some way. Perhaps the line lengths become far too long, or a box out of sidebar gets squashed and hard to read. That's the point at which you want to use the media query to change the design to a better one. For the space you have available. This approach means that it doesn't matter what exact dimensions are of the device being used, every range is catered for. The points at which media query is introduced are known as breakpoints. Then we have the box sizing CSS property. The box sizing CSS property says how the total width and height of an element is calculated. The box sizing. The box size in CSS property says how the total width and height of an element is calculated. Then we have these values of the box sizing property. The first value is content box. Content box gives you the default CSS box sizing behavior. If you set an element width to 100 pixels, then the element's content box will be 100 pixels wide. And the width of any border or padding will be added to the final rendered width, making the element wider than 100 pixels. The content box. The content box gives you the default CSS box sizing behavior. If you set an element's width to 100 pixels, then the element's content box will be 100 pixels wide. And the width of any border or padding will be added to the final rendered width, making the element wider than 100 pixels. So can anyone just explain what do they understand about the content box? Anyone of you guys?
So I think we have the content box. If we don't put any border like 100%, then it doesn't show like what you use your border like color blue. So if you put content box worth 100%, it will show no border. It will show like a kind of a box that you want to back up color, but it won't show the border. But if you put the kind of worth 100% and you put border and solid whatever you want to make it, and then it will come up. So with the words, we only use words and it doesn't show like the line of the border, but if you use border with it in it, then it will show you what is happening.
Okay, can you read content box for me?
The content box.
Yes.
Content box gives you the default CSS box sizing behavior. If you set the element's worth to 100 pixels, then the element's content box will be 100 pixels wide, and the width of any border or padding will be added to the final rendered width, making the element wider than 100 pixels.
So what do you make out of it?
So if you use the content box and it gives you the default of the box sizing behavior, if you add because it will be default, the border with the padding or extended.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah, I understand.
So it won't be unless you specify the width, and then if you don't use the default, and instead of it being 100 pixels, maybe if the padding is 20 pixels, it will add that, including the.
Okay. So let's say this is our element, right? This element is, let's say, let's just give it a generic number of 100 pixels, right? It doesn't have borders, it doesn't have borders. So without borders, this is 100 pixels, right? But the minute we add the border, remember the border, it has also a width. Let's say you give it a width of 100 pixels. Then the total value being calculated is going to be 200 pixels because it's adding the borders with to the element. Right. Let's simply this again. Content box gives you the default CSS box sizing behavior. If you set an element's width to 100 pixels, then the element's content box will be 100 pixels. Right? And the width of any border or padding will be added to the final element, making the elements wider than 100 pixels. Which is, the border is added on top of the original width that was being defined if you use content box. Right. Remember the box sizing property is all about calculating the total width of the height and the width of an element. Right. Cindy, can you read what about Sony?
What border box tells the browser to
Volume.
a border box tells the browser to account for any border and padding in the values you specify for an element's width and height. If you set an element's width to 100 pixels, that 100 pixels will include any border or padding you added, and the content box will shrink to absorb that extra width. This technically makes it much easier to size elements. Box sizing, border box, okay, I don't know how to. Box sizing, border box, is the default styling that browsers use for the table, select, and button elements, and for input elements, whose type is radio, checkbox, reset, button, submit, color, or search.
What do you make out of it?
A border box is like it's sort of like a border of your box.
So, what? I didn't get that back.
It's a border of a box.
Remember, the box sizing property is all about calculating the total width and height. Let's just keep that in mind, because we are talking about the box sizing property, and content box and border box are all the values of it.
So then I think a border box then calculates the width and height of your box.
Okay.
Because in my understanding that content box is like the content, and then within that content then you have the border box. I'm not sure how I'm confusing myself.
Now you are. Let me just help you there. You were getting there, but you somehow lost yourself. But let me just remember content box. Let's say you gave an element a width of 100 pixels, right? The size of that element's width is 100 pixels. But the minute you add a border, let's say you declare a border property, and give it a size of a border width of, let's say, 50 pixels. The size of the element now is no longer 100 pixels width. The width is no longer 100 pixels, because there was a border defined to it, which is 50 pixels. So the size of the width is what? 150 pixels, which means the colored box, the minute you add a border, it's taking that size of the border and adding it to the final element width. Do you understand? Okay. I'm going to try to draw something. Let's say I can draw an activity. So let's say this is my neutron. This width is 50 pixels. And this will start from this side to this side. The minute you add a border, let's say this is a border. It's grown. So it's added what? So the total width is no longer what? 50 pixels. Since there is a what? Because it added this. If you have to take a ruler and it's no longer 50 pixels. If the border itself, the width of the border is 20 pixels, so the width, the total width is going to be yes, plus 20 pixels. So you now understand?
I understand the 40 pixels is, but after that, is it when the other one you have done?
Yes, try to make an example to each and one of them. Draw rectangle. It's no longer 100 pixels, it has grown. So this, the width of the border, let's say, goes to 20 pixels. So the new total width of the box is no longer 100 pixels, which is what? It is the border size plus the original elements size. It's 120 pixels on the content box.
So it makes it as thicker.
Now, it doesn't make anything. Remember, look at this. See, this is the border. If you add a border, this is 10 pixels.
Oh, yeah, okay, sorry, yeah.
So it's going to take the width of the record. Like, let's say the parent was, in this case, 250 pixels. So the minute you say 100%, which means even the child is going to be 100 pixels. Right? So add that with the 20 with the 10 pixels, whether it has been divided for you, it's 120. Okay, can you just control shift 5? I want to show you something. I'm coming to you. Scroll up on this side. Scroll up, scroll up, scroll up. This is what it is. In the inner layer, we have content, then we have blend, we have border, we have margin. If you add the border the size is no longer what the element you define, this is the way you define. Unless you use what the border is. Because border is actually the total opposite. Because if you define a width of 100 pixels, it's going to shrink an E instead of adding another space, which is another width. It's going to shrink an E so that it cannot have a lot of space. Right? So that you can remain with that 100 pixels that was predefined instead of adding on top of that 100 pixels. So on content box, it adds based on the border that you have defined. The content, the border box, it does not add, it makes sure it absorbs as the definitions, as the that says. The border box tells the browser to account for any border and padding in the values you specify for an element, width and height. If you set an element with 200 pixels, that 100 pixels will include any border or padding you added, and the content box will shrink to absorb that extra width. This is typically makes it easier, much easier to size elements. So in content box, it is hard to size elements because you have to account for border and also the padding. So you cannot say, well, I have defined the height of 100 pixels and the width of 200 pixels.
So in the border box you can specify your own pixels, but in the content box it's the different.
On the content box you can specify your own, but on the final rendered product, it won't be the one that you define. You can add the padding and the border separately. And then that will be the final.
Border box it's included.
It has to, yes, it has to shrink in so that it matches whatever you put behind. So is that clear? Cindy? You understand? Don't say yes if you don't understand. You understand? Okay, it's coming. Draw that thing. I'll show you. It's better than you want. Size of 50 pixels clear. Height. Your height? I'll try your height now. I'm the speaker. Width. So if this is the width is 50 pixels, let's say you add a border. Remember what's the border? If you take a border and measure it, it's not 50 pixels. Because this. Let's say this side, the border width you gave the definition is 10 pixels. 10 pixels. So do you now understand, guys?
Yeah.
Really?
Understand.
Explain
I
it.
must play with it. I must do it without.
Remember, it's all about sizing.
Mm.
The size of the width and the height. This is the width, which is coming from left to right. The height, top to bottom. Okay, let's just put it this way. Your height is, let's say, your height, your home height. How tall are you? The minute you have high heels, are you still true?
Yeah.
That is the content box.
So the content box you add on.
Yes.
You add, and in the border box you can make your own.
It should, it's a bit just water with it just shrinks in so that it can include the space that is specified. You remember those shoes that we call plastic shoes?
Yes, the jelly babies. The jelly babies that girls used to wear. Yeah, I used to wear them.
So the next you wear those shoes, the size and your height doesn't change. It's still remain the same. Right? That is one of this.
So then the padding would be inside and not outside.
The pattern is always inside.
No,
It's
I'm
never
not
outside.
the
border.
margin like
The border. So the content will shrink, which is the border will have to take up the space of 50 pixels on the border.
So the border would be calculated as inside and
Not
not
outside.
outside.
Yes. Whatever content is inside, it will shrink automatically.
So the border will be inside here and not outside.
It will be outside, but whatever content was here, it will shrink so that it will make space with that 50 pixels. Between that 50 pixels.
And I feel like it will be easier to understand if you say like it will be inside.
Inside, let's say you continue from the inside. Because it's
This is border box.
Because do you understand what that means? Because if you say the border is in here, so then it will be easier to understand if you say the border is maybe here. But if you add it with content box, it's outside. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's better like that, but I want you to picture this because the border will be here, but the content inside will shrink. Right? One border box will be shrink so that that 50 pixels still remains 50 pixels so that it does not grow. In content box, it will grow. Right? So you now understand?
I think we will do.
Okay. So are you ready for practicals?
Ready?
Are you ready for practicals? You just said you understand.
Yeah, I want to do nothing to do.
Okay. Question, yeah?
So if on border with content box adds with the put of any border and does that mean border box shrinks?
The content so that it can fit the size that you've specified. It shrinks the content. Remember, the content is inside. Remember the box model, guys. Do you still remember the box model?
Box model.
Yeah. Remember what I showed you on inspect? Yeah. That. What is inside there? That is the first layer that you hold right now is called content, which is the text, the images. Then after that, we have the heading. After that, we have what? The border. After that, we have what? The margin. So that is called what? Box model. So each and every element that you have on the screen, that you write to HTML, it has that. It has what? Content, which is the text. Heading, the background, we can say it's the background. Border, because it's the border. Margin, the space around. But when we use content box, this border width, it does not shrink. It adds so that it's no longer 305 days. It will add based on what the width and height is of the box. So, go inside.
I was watching another thing.
Watch it.
I was looking at the other thing about coming with me. But I understand what you're saying.
So, can you go back on the example of the MGM, just play around it? This time around, seeing partitions. You see, when you use water box, it contains, it's not moving anything outside. When you use connect box, second one, I want to show you something. You see there's a border, so it's flowing, it's overflowing outside, which is calculating extra space. When you use water box, it remains inside, which is the content string so that it can fit the specified width, size, and it is to keep it. Do you understand? Okay. So I'll give you practicals, guys, so that you can just practice. Remember, it's not marked. It's for your own learning, so that you can now understand what did I say, why I was saying what I was saying. Play around with those practicals. Unfortunately for Cindy, she can't log in on her browser. Mind if you restart the computer and re-log in again so that the browser works? Yeah. You try to reopen your browser, Cindy. Have you restarted?
How should you call it?
Yeah, this was the end of today's slides. So I'm going to give you practicals so that you can start. And that's it.